listening to Second Wind with Joyce Buford, where women who are ready to expand their life adventure discover the tools to stop playing small and tap into the courage required to enjoy their second wind. Welcome.
Good afternoon, good morning, good night, wherever you are that you are listening to Second Wind with Joyce. I know that you're going to love today's show. You know, I always promise you the best people to come and listen to, the people that will shake your world up and encourage you to go in a different direction. If you listen to them very closely, they'll share their wisdom with you today. And that is what we're going to hear today from Christina Foxwell. Now, Christina, I have to tell you, she comes from Australia. I'm sorry. Australia. I had but I couldn't go with the rest. But anyway, she comes from Australia. So she's up very early today to do this recording. And I do appreciate that, Christina. Christina Foxwell is the founder of Ignite Purpose, where she supports leaders in their navigation of their teams and helped people find their purpose and flow. Now, she's been not only busy in her life in growing her business and supporting it, but she's also loves to write. Foxwell has authored 4 books. Her first 2 books were for children's books. And I think that's so interesting. So we're going to get to talk a little bit about that. And then the second 2 I guess, are more adult books. So she'll talk to us about her creative side in writing, which I love. And we'll learn a little bit more. So welcome, Christina. It's a great pleasure to have you here.
Joyce, you are so warm and so friendly. I feel like I'm sitting in your living room. So thank you for allowing me with you and your beautiful audience today.
Yes. Well, I think we would have a good time sitting down with a cup of coffee and talking. I really do. But I want you to tell me about your life getting into this, to your company. It didn't just start that way. We started another way. You started another way. And would you share that with us? What was that defining moment?
Oh, I'm going to share 2.
Okay, great.
So the first defining moment, my dad was a Pentecostal minister. Mm-hmm. I was a pastor's kid, PK, and we generally are probably some of the naughtiest human beings on the planet, simply because we have to be good kids. But at 17, I said to my dad, I feel I want to be a minister. I want to help people. I want to touch people's lives. And he said to me, my darling, I love you, but girls don't do that. You need a husband. You can't do that with a husband.
Yes.
So, Joyce, I have had many husbands. You need to find my calling. Mm-hmm. Bit of a strange thing, because, you know, you say things to children and they hear you, and then certain things get stuck in their mind. But I am now, I have the beautiful partner, my husband, John, and we've been 10 years together for almost 16. And I started my business 10 years ago. So I had this feeling of a calling. I worked my way up. I was a single parent, did all sorts of things, which I'm sure we'll explore today. And about 12 years ago, I started getting incredibly frustrated because I was in executive positions in organizational change and research organizations, and I was leading organizations. And I was frustrated because we would tell people how they could transform their organization, but because we were kind of selling a program, we would never get deeply into the organization to walk with people. That was the first challenge. And the second challenge was leading organizations, and just looking at my journey, I realized that people do a job without heart. So they go to work, but they don't actually feel like they can really bring what they have. There's passion and purpose. So I had this purpose birthed out of me to actually start this company. And so it's Ignite Purpose, because I was always making money for big corporates in consulting. And I worked really, really hard, just as if it was my own practice. And someone said, start your own business. And I was like, oh no, what would I share? Do I have what it takes? I don't even have content. See how you second guess yourself?
Yeah.
Yet I say this to you, if you're called to do something, you can't stop the knocking on the door.
Well, I'm kind of, what's buzzing in my mind is, did you remember the statement of your father? Women don't do that.
Women don't do that. Do you know? That is such a crazy statement, right? Because women don't do that, but then I could work my way up into business and go into a landscape where women don't do that sometimes. Executive team where women don't really do that. A working parent where people have judged me because women should stay at home with their, yet I was a single parent. There was no option. I needed to stay and earn a living, and a living where I could take care of my daughter properly, and then my son. And I really enjoy being in this space, sharing my life, teaching people, helping people. So yes, that statement has come up, and I'm one of those very stubborn people that if you tell me no, I'll find a way to say yes.
It like builds a fire under you.
Yeah.
You say?
No, I am persistent and patient, and those two combined, I will keep showing up, especially if I truly believe it's right. My dad, years later, he's now passed on. The last visit he had here with me in Australia, which was just before COVID, 3 years ago.
Oh.
I know. He said to me, I want to say sorry. I said,
well, that's sweet.
He said, because you have done just what you needed to do. In many ways, you are a minister. In many ways, you touch people's lives every single day. You just don't need to do it in a church environment. You can do it in the corporate space. And actually, I teach people about love, Joyce. I teach people about care. I teach people about being honest and setting boundaries. So I teach people these wonderful godly principles, if you want to think about it that way, in the so that they truly can work together. And so I think it's a real gift, and it's a real gift to be able to coach people and sit with them and love them and share some tears and be deeply connected. And I can do it in a space that touches lives, and I'm so grateful. So yes, I am doing a work that I was always needed to do. It just was a little bit different, which is great.
Right. Yeah. Well, good for you for persisting and staying on the same path so that you could do what you're doing now. But you haven't always lived in Australia. Your original country was?
South Africa.
South Africa, that's right.
So as you can see from my complexion, I'm olive skin, dark hair. I don't really go into the sun. So this is the non-sun. I have to be honest, because people don't realize this is I do not go in the sun complexion. When I go in the sun, I become brown as a biscuit, which is also okay.
Brown as a biscuit.
Yeah, I grew up in South Africa. So it was an interesting childhood. It was one where I always felt a little bit different. I think two things. My dad being a Pentecostal minister in a very Dutch Reformed community. So Dutch is more of a very traditional community, and we were English and Afrikaans. So life is an interesting, complex mixture, right? So anyway, I grew up in South Africa, and I met my husband in Canada. He's not a Canadian. He says, I don't mind it being, I love Canadians, but I'm not a Canadian. I'm a Brit. I was like, okay. And he was actually living in Australia, and then I ended up coming here with my two children. And only 3 and my daughter was 11. But Joyce, I came over on my own visa because I wanted to be able to stand on my own 2 feet and forge this life.
Mm-hmm. Now, you met your husband in Australia, didn't you, after you made that trip?
Oh, he was in Canada. I met him on a work trip. We were colleagues.
I see what you're saying. You came.
We were friends.
Yes.
And then friendship just grew. And then I came to see him here. I arrived on Australia Day in 2007 and 2008. And I just loved it here. And I loved spending time with him. And I went back to South Africa, and within 2 months, I had a job offer here.
Really? Oh, wow.
Absolutely.
Well, where is French's Forest?
I know, French's Forest. What a nice name, right? It's based in Sydney.
In where? Sydney?
Yeah, Sydney.
Oh, okay. All right. I have been to Sydney, and I have seen the Symphony Hall. Yeah. And so we took a trip around Australia. So we commented at the time that it's very, very easy for a Texan to go there because of the outdoor and the scenery and all that, except that the water goes in a different direction as it goes down the drain.
Yeah.
We did notice that. So you met your man in Canada, and then you decided to come. But I like that you came independently and knowing you were going to build something really great and wonderful.
I came by faith.
Yeah.
Independently. I just felt that if it worked or if it didn't work, and that's part of my story, right? So if it didn't work, coming to Australia was a wonderful opportunity for me and my children. And not many women can say that they've, moved countries on their own with their small children.
No, and it takes so much courage. There's a lot of faith in that, doing that. I'm glad you had that background with God and your father.
So much faith and absolute belief that this would be okay. And I have to share with you and with your listeners, I got here 3 months into my role. The GFC hit, the financial crisis. And the company that had brought me over cut the level of leadership I was in.
Oh.
They made my role redundant in order to save cash flow.
Yeah.
I sat in my office and I felt so hopeless. My luggage and my furniture hadn't even arrived. It's okay. I had 2 weeks to find another job. And Joyce, I did.
You did?
Absolutely.
Comparable to the one you had? I mean, or did you have to make an adjustment?
I had to make an adjustment. And this is the interesting thing. So when I came over as group training and operations manager, but my background was consulting in learning and development on researched organizations. So our research team is all based in the US, and it was fascinating. So I'd worked for the business in South Africa. I didn't get here with them. I got a completely new job. And when this happened, my managing director from South Africa phoned me. She said, she used to call me Cherub. Cherub, they really need you there. I said, oh gosh, Wendy, really? And she said, yes, but I don't think they have an executive role for you. You're going to have to step in at the bottom.
Oh, yeah.
And okay, do this thing. And I stepped in, and within, I think, 2 or 3 months, I was leading a team. And within 12 months, I was leading the sales area. And then I sat back and I thought, all right, I've now worked my way back into this space. is this where I wanted to be? You see, this is where purpose started building in me. Was this the right? I needed to do something that was really going to touch people's lives. And then the company that had cut my role asked me to come back as their general manager.
Oh my.
I know, really, this is where it gets insane. And so I was general manager for another year.
Oh.
And it was a husband and a wife who ran this organization. It was a large recruitment franchise organization. And at one stage, I said to the husband, who was the managing director, I sat down with him. I said, you have me and you have you, and we do the same thing. I think you're paying me for something that you love doing, and we're overlapping. And so because of that, I'm going to bow out gracefully.
Oh. You left the company?
I resigned.
Oh, you did?
There was so much confusion about who was actually leading.
Oh.
And the decision, you know what I mean? And I was like, oh, no, this is a good experience. I've made beautiful impacts in people's lives, but I just feel that it's not right. And then I got an offer to be a director for a sister company to the company that I'd worked for in South Africa for many, many years. And I took the role. I said, come on, let's do this. And I got promoted to a partner there. And it was an interesting role because, Joyce, in this role, I was able to bring what I have. I was able to explore. I was able to learn. And I learned the most about me in this job.
Oh, yeah.
You know, when I say that, it wasn't an easy road. Because in that, I got gaslit by a peer. So I know, and it was a female. So we were only 2 women for Asia Pacific on the senior executive team. And she just decided that she needed control, and she had different control over the men, but over me, she couldn't have the same control. And it was just interesting. So she started making my life very interesting. Guessed my sanity several times. And I experienced workplace PTSD, which was very similar to the PTSD I had suffered from domestic violence earlier in my life. And at that stage, Joyce, I was like, all right. And I got really overwhelmed. I took a role outside of leadership. I was like, I'm tired of being a leader. I just don't want to be a leader anymore. No more leading for me. I just want to be an person in a role. And I will say that to any executive out there. If you've had an executive position and then you decide you want to give that up and you just want to work right at the bottom of an organization again, you're going to drive everybody and yourself crazy, because you think very differently about how the business needs to work, and you can apply yourself in that space, but you'll keep seeing the opportunities at that strategic level. So I was in that role for 6 months, and you know what? I sat down the one day and I was like, this is not right. I'm starting my business today.
Yeah.
So I got home, I resigned, Joyce, and I phoned my now husband. I said, darling. And he was like, hi, I just have some news for you. I'm starting my business today. And he went, what do you mean? I said, well, I've resigned. The big salary, all of it's gone. I know I'll be okay. How much do you need a month for us to survive? Come on.
He asked you that, or you asked him that?
I asked him, come on, what do I need to bring in every month I can give to you so we'll survive? This is not thriving. This is surviving. You just tell me, because I know that starting a business is never easy. Joyce, he is a quiet English man. He is an accountant, so he's a chartered accountant. I don't think he spoke to me for 2 weeks because he was just overwhelmed, cranky. Cranky is a nice Australian word for downright angry with me for without actually asking him. And we just got married at that stage.
Oh, I see.
I made him my business partner. Whatever he invested in me and in this business, he could feel that I would give him a return. It's more than 10 years later. And over the decade that I've led this business, it's been the vision of my life. It's been a learning curve. I have my whole family, my son, my daughter, my sister-in-law from my first marriage.
Yes.
Working in the practice with me. I know we've become this family unit with a belief base that we believe we want to make a difference to one person's life a day.
Mm-hmm.
Now tell me, isn't that special?
That's a great story. It really is. It's coming back with such a positive attitude. That just has to be so powerful in helping you create and maintain that courage that you need to do all those changes and acceptance.
Oh, that is the magic to navigate life.
Right. Yeah.
I think we fight sometimes what life isn't. So we get really upset about what things aren't.
Right.
Because we can't stand in what they are. But when we stand or we sit or we accept what it is.
Right. If we can accept it, then there's no telling what the next step will be, how big it will be, how great it will be for growth. And it's almost like a magnet to pull in the good things in life. It's a hard thing to do, hard lesson to learn, but once you've got it, it's a great tool to help your life expand.
Joyce, I didn't realize how I've had moments of acceptance throughout my journey. And I'll share with you when the greatest moment of my growth came was about 5 years ago. My son, love him so much, he was struggling to attend school. He'd been bullied. He didn't feel like he fitted in. You know, dark skin, dark hair, northern beaches, beautiful blonde hair, blue-eyed people. Yes. Women can be so cruel. Where are you from? What language do you speak? I mean, we're from South. We have got every nationality in our DNA pool. You know, some go, so are you an Arab? It was just not okay. And so but he didn't tell us.
Oh.
Okay. But he just started hiding in his bedroom, doing his online gaming, not coming out of his bedroom. He got addicted to loneliness. Now we can get addicted to being alone.
Safer sometimes.
We feel it safe, but what we do is we're starving ourselves from the most important thing we as human beings need, and that's connection. And so I shifted schools with him. And the new school had a great pastoral care program where they would really work, and they had a fantastic team. And I have to tell you, I remember buying him his clothes for this new high school, and he was like, I don't know why you're doing this. It's not going to change anything. I said, darling, we're changing a few things. And the psychologist there got very involved. And the teachers supported me. And so we went through a journey of understanding. And I'll share this with you. Gosh, did I have to grow? I love the catalyst moment. Running a business, if anyone can hear out there, I'm a hard worker. If I start something, I give it everything I have. That's my own boundaries. Sometimes I need to learn when to say, no, I need to take time out.
Right.
But I had a really big program. I was working with News Corp in Australia, and I was coaching up to 90 managers a month, just organization, which was a lot. And I was doing it, so I was flying all over Australia. And I'm on my way to Queensland, which is Wales, that's another state. And I walked this counselor's office. So we had family counseling to try and help my son. I brought in all these suitcases because I was running programs. So programs, suitcases, luggage. I'm dressed up. My husband and son are sitting there. And I could see the therapist just observing. In that moment, I was like, is this lady judging me? I don't like being judged, right? But she was and we sat down, and after a lot of conversation, she asked me a question. Christina, do you think you could work less? That's like poking a volcano, not a bear. And in that moment, it came flooding out. And here's what came out. Wow. I looked at this man who helped me raise these children.
Mm-hmm.
But remember, you wouldn't know, he's 4 years younger than me. He's not had the life experience. I'm his first wife.
Mm-hmm.
I'm his only wife, but so it's really new for him. And was he perfect? What is perfect?
Mm-hmm.
Was I suffering from PTSD in this relationship? Absolutely. But I looked at him and I said, and not because of him, but because of my story, I looked at, you see that man there? He's got no need or responsibility to take care of me and the children. That's my job. They're mine.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, help me raise them, but he could walk away. Now, this is where you hear the trauma. He could walk away at any time. And I looked at my son and I said, that child is my responsibility. I'm giving you the very watered down, parental guidance of what I actually did in that moment. The tears were running down all our cheeks, Joyce.
Mm-hmm. Right.
She phoned me afterwards and she said, can I share something with you, Christina? I said, sure. She said, look, I need to share with you that you've got PTSD and you need help, because if you don't heal, your son won't heal. Now, let me tell you, after doing everything in my life, because I love my children. Actually, I had a son without a husband. That's another story, Joyce, right? I just wanted a baby, so I got this beautiful son. What's my choice? My choice is only one thing. I'm being forced to choose me for the first time in my life. Imagine being forced to choose you. That sounds ludicrous, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But you see, the change happens because we change.
Yeah. Explain to my listeners the PTSD and where that came from.
My post-traumatic stress disorder. There were various things in my life that built up to that, but I got married at the age of 21. I married my childhood sweetheart that had grown up with us in our church. Was he the guy I thought I wanted to date? No, but I ended up marrying him at 21. He was a riot squad policeman in apartheid South Africa.
A riot squad policeman?
That's correct. So that meant he went in with his baton and his shield, and he had camouflage on, and he had a big gun, and it was when Nelson Mandela was coming out of jail. There were so many riots, and where we were living in South Africa, sometimes there were shootings in pubs and things. And the one instance I remember him sharing with me, it was a golf club that got raided with people who had AK-47s, and they just shot people who were sitting in this bar. And he carried them out and was telling them they'd be okay. And by the time he got back to them, they were no longer alive. Oh. So, you see such awful things. And I'm not making an excuse for his behavior, but I've learned to understand his behavior. And then he comes home to a young wife who's got pregnant with a honeymoon baby. And he's also, besides that fact, he's also a state sportsman. So he's recognized, not only is he rugby, but he's got this dichotomy in his life. And I am this minister's daughter who grew up with somebody, like a family who didn't even drink alcohol. So, Joyce, so I suffered PTSD. And what happened was it was intense control. So I got controlled what I eat, who I talk to. I can't even tell you. Everything was controlled.
Controlled by you or controlled by him?
Him.
Yes. Okay.
So as we drove away on honeymoon, these were his words that I remember, obviously. It was, Christina, now I'm going to share with you how we're going to live.
Oh.
Lord, he goes, so you will not be just seeing your parents whenever you want.
Oh, no.
We need to, I'm in your life now. So, so I was told when I could and when I couldn't see them.
Oh, you lost all your control.
I lost everything. I lost everything.
Yeah.
He found out on honeymoon that I'd kept some money that I hadn't shared with him in order to pay the photographer that had done our wedding pictures. But it was a separate account. I didn't tell him. I didn't think it was important. He found out about that money and he was so angry. So he took my salary, so I gave him my money.
He took what? It cuts out every once in a while. That's okay.
My salary, my pay.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
So he was managing our finance, Joyce.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so he would give me pocket money weekly.
Mm-hmm.
It got to the point when my little girl was born that he said to me that his dad can't be his minister. His father-in-law can't be his minister. We've got to move to another church.
Oh.
And, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was, you can't speak English to our child. You have to speak Afrikaans, which was the Dutch kind of Africa. And I was, I said, I'm English. She said, yes, but I met you and you spoke Afrikaans. So I need you to speak to our child. And I went, but I'm English. Anyway, so we had this, I could speak both languages fluently, but I went to an English school.
Yes. And
then the final straw came when he said to me, you choose between your parents and me.
Oh, no.
How do you choose? Yeah. He said, well, you choose. And I remember, Joyce, my parents sitting in my little lounge room in my apartment, and he was sitting with them and we were crying. And my mom and dad said to me, you know, you need to, my dad being a minister said, you have to leave your parents' home and cleave to your husband. So we will bow out gracefully and we love you.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot explain the pain it is to live in a small town and drive past your parents and not being able to greet them.
So how long did you stay? And
after that, I might have stayed another year.
That was a hard year.
My dad visited me the one day in his house visitation. So my then husband had night shift and my dad visited secretly. Mm-hmm. I will share with you, it was terrible. I had the kitchen window open. My dad came in. I walked outside to hug my dad and the door slammed behind me, closed. And my little baby girl was sleeping inside and I didn't know how I was going to get back in.
Yeah.
And I knew if he found out, I would be in a world of trouble, of trouble. The verbal abuse I would suffer and the fear that I would have that he would do something would be terrible. So my dad pushed me through the kitchen window. I was literally on my dad's shoulders so I could climb through the kitchen window to get back into the house. Look, I look back at that now and I laugh because it is ridiculous, right?
Yes.
And I think the final straw for me where I really realized this is not right was we had an argument about language. Mm-hmm. And at that stage, he picked me up by my throat against the wall and started choking me, and my little girl was hanging on my leg. And I was like, I've given you everything. Everything. Yeah. There's nothing left. Mm-hmm. There's nothing left of me. Mm-hmm. See, I didn't set boundaries. Well, I didn't know I could. I don't know if I could have even, but I didn't say what was okay, what was not okay. I was not independent.
Right.
I was independent.
Yeah. I don't know that you could have set them, honestly. He was pretty strong.
He was
pretty strong. How did you get away from him?
So I'm going to say two things. At that time, I got a job during that probably last 6 months. And that job, I got elevated really quickly because I was in my niche. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Reception to running a customer service team. Mm-hmm. And somebody in my office that I was managing stole money and they sent somebody down from head office to come and investigate. Mm-hmm. This person showed me kindness for the first time in years because I'd been together with my then husband for years, even before we were married. Mm-hmm. And I'm not proud because I went against my values, but I had a short stint of a relationship with this person. Mm-hmm. The gift, I want to share the gift. The gift is I could see that because of that my life was only a shell and it challenged me to leave.
He challenged you?
I challenged me.
Oh, you challenged you.
Because I felt seen and heard for the first time in a long time. And I realized that I was not living, I was surviving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I escaped, basically. This sounds very dramatic, but he went on a rugby tour because he was a provincial rugby player. He went away for the weekend and my family came. I'd been to see a lawyer. My dad had to give me money because I couldn't.
Right.
I had no, I needed access to money. But so in order to do that, my family came and we cleared out the entire apartment based on my lawyer's advice. Because had I tried to just leave, he would have taken everything.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
So I cleared everything out. I made an inventory and I went to my parents' house. I left him a few things like the bed and, I didn't clear everything, but I took the majority of things. I made a list and I left him a note because I couldn't actually speak to him because my voice had been taken.
Oh, got it. I know what you're talking about. No voice.
No voice.
Mm-hmm.
And he tried to wrestle my daughter out of the bargaining of the divorce.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the one day I phoned my young lawyer. Gosh, he was brave. And I pulled over because that was when mobile phones just started, we just started having mobile phones because this is how many years ago? She's 26. This is 24 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to him, I can't take it anymore. I'm tired of fighting. I'm just going to give him my daughter so I can be free because I can't. And he said to me, you will not give your daughter to him. You will not give your daughter. You have been abused. You are not thinking correctly. Your daughter needs you. She needs love. She needs kindness. Except your daughter needs you. You are not giving her up.
Mm-hmm. Well, did you go to a shelter or some safe place when you did that?
My parents' home.
Your parents' home.
The minister's home.
Mm-hmm.
There was no shelter. This is South Africa. I don't even know. There might be shelters today, but 24 years ago, I can't even think that there was a shelter. And he arrived there. He was so scared. My mum, little pit bull, she's now living with me. She's like, you what? My dad was a peace broker and he just said, son, it's over. But he was powerful in his presence, my dad. Look, I was very scared because he was a policeman too. Joyce, I ended up leaving that town. I ended up moving away with my daughter, but here's the tragedy and the gift, because there's always a gift, right? I couldn't live without somebody controlling me. Can you of that? Because there wasn't counseling. Mm-hmm. There wasn't counseling available. Mm-hmm. So transferred me to another city. I moved 1,000 something kilometers away, which was a 12-hour drive in a car. Another city. And there my life literally fell apart because I got a boyfriend who stole all my money. I mean, really, because codependent behavior, just give over all your control, trust people. And about 8 months later, he phoned me, my ex-husband, and said, my mom's died. I know I've been not kind to you. I want to make repair. I want you back in my life. I want my daughter back in my life. I'm so sorry. I want to be a better man.
You didn't, did you?
I did.
You did? Oh, no.
I did. He fetched me. He brought me back. It was horrific.
Yeah. He hadn't changed, hey? He couldn't.
No, he tended to change, and then we got married again because my parents were, you can't live in sin. I'm like, I will never say that to my child. I'm going, please live in sin, choose what you need, and then get, I've changed my whole reflection. But after five months, so the second marriage, the drama started on the wedding day.
Yeah.
And within a few months, he was dragging me around by my hair.
Oh, no.
And Joyce, I think in those moments, I tried to commit suicide then. I was like, I can't live. I can't leave you. What will people say?
Mm-hmm.
I can't stay with you. I'm dying on the inside.
Right.
I can't take your daughter away from you. Your daughter needs you. It was very confusing for me.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I didn't do it properly. Thank the Lord, because I drank mild painkillers, but I thought I'd drink a whole bottle and it would work. It didn't work. He found the letter. He told me I'm so pathetic, I couldn't even kill myself. That sounds terrible, but, and then I felt even worse.
Mm-hmm.
And then again. And Joyce, this time I left with just my suitcases.
And your daughter.
My little girl.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, shit. Sorry for that word, but I was not leaving her.
Right.
I left with her. I had to start my life again. There was about 10 years of my life between the age of 21, no longer, 21 and 34 was my walk through shame, judgment, separation, fear, PTSD, just adding. And the only place where my life was less chaotic was work.
Mm-hmm.
So can you imagine somebody telling you to give up the only thing, now I'm coming back to that psychologist, the only consistent thing that created safety for you in your whole life, to give that up, to trust in yourself and somebody else in an intimate, I think that would be triggering for anyone that has PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
You ask me to walk into the lion's den and you're asking me to make peace with a lion who's actually a pussycat named Franklin, though. But you know what I mean? It was the call to freedom.
So you forgave your husband for your freedom.
I had to.
Right.
I had to. I sat with my therapist and my coach. His name's Robbie Fullerton. He's actually from the US.
Mm-hmm.
And he's living in Australia now. And he does acceptance commitment therapy. And he sat with me and he said to me, right, Christina, what are we working on? Do you know what I said? I want peace. Can I just be free? Because you see, I was trying to outrun my story, Joyce.
Yeah.
Outwork, outrun, outsmart. But you can't outrun yourself. You have to stand in your life and look at your life differently. And that's what I did. Mm-hmm. I look at my life differently. I realized that there were things even in my childhood, growing up in a minister's home, where my voice was taken away, which is why I couldn't actually set boundaries or walk away sooner in that codependent relationship.
Right.
I realized that there was shame, that I was molested as a 5-year-old girl, and my dad and mom at that stage did the best they could, but they didn't know how to handle it. So they hushed me. And they hushed me and pretended it never happened. And then when I started needing love and acceptance to fill the void that had scarred me, it was external to me versus being internal to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right.
And we all have a story, don't we, though, Joyce?
We do.
We have a story. And you've said something beautiful today, is we've got to walk through our story with love and acceptance. So I look back at my parents. I realize they've done the best they could with what they have. Gosh, they love me. My daddy was the best daddy, and I think he just didn't know what to do. He was so overwhelmed. His ministry would have gone down the toilet, really. People would have judged bad people, and it wasn't the family member. But so he tried to hush it. But what I'm thinking in reflection is, he could have hushed it without taking my voice. It could have kept contained without taking my voice.
Mm-hmm.
Taking voice we do with people. We try and remove their voice, but that means they're not seen, heard, and valued, which means they second guess themselves for a long, long time.
Mm-hmm.
not knowing if things have truly happened.
I think that happens a lot to young
Doesn't it?
women. Don't you?
Yes,
A lot.
a
Yeah.
lot, a lot. We don't recognize our value.
No.
Our value is dependent on being a good wife. Well, what is a good wife? Please tell me.
I don't think there's a job description.
There's no job description. So suddenly I'm exchanging my worthiness, my good enough measure, with your expectation of me.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can deliver on your expectation, you will love and accept me as being good enough.
Mm-hmm.
See,
But you have to think that even his expectations are all based on what he saw in his family.
exactly.
And that's not functional usually. I mean, the number of really good marriages are very small. I think we're getting better. I hope we're getting better. But who's to say? It's all based on our history.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
It's stories coming together based on our history.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're creating a new story together.
Mm. Yeah.
I will say this, and I'm a fundamental believer in this. When I healed and I've started healing, and I think healing is going to be a lifetime journey for me, because that's right. It's actually practices that keep me peaceful, accepting.
Mm-hmm.
The more I do that with me, the more my relationship changes with my partner.
Mm-hmm. I think that's, I think that's a belief that we can go in and say, I forgive, and then it's over. But it's not. We go on these paths and we forgive, and then we have to forgive again, and then we have to forgive again, and then again. And it's just, and then one day it's gone.
I love that you've said that.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I forgive, I choose to release the story I've attached to that memory. See, when I experience pain, my brain is trying to understand the pain. And yes, there's stuff that is not right, fundamental. But if I hold on to a memory from yesterday that is not right, and I don't learn how to forgive and release, forgive and release, forgive and release, it builds up. And to your point, if I've done it once what? Once is not enough. How long has it been sitting in your brain? It's a lifetime. It's a lifetime. And I will share this with you, Joyce. My daughter working with me now walks through the story with me as I retell it sometimes.
Oh, really?
Does, and it's her dad. And let me tell you, she's reconnected with him after separation time, where he tried to gaslight her, and she set a boundary and she wouldn't let him do that because of the work we do. Now she's allowed him back in her life with boundaries, what's okay and what's and as we share the story, sometimes she cries and she, Mom, I know that's your story and I know you're working through forgiveness, but sometimes I think he's my daddy and I just wish that, the story wasn't what it is. But forgiveness is a journey piece. It's again and again, and I choose to release it again and again. See, when I'm not forgiving, I hold on to it and it falls into my heart. And then needs so much negative energy and just negative thoughts on me.
Right.
And then become fabric of part of this story I'm living now, which isn't needed.
And is this where you spend the most of your work time now, in helping women make this transition? Or what exactly are you focusing on in your professional life?
Joyce, that is a good question. I'm not just working with women. I work with women and men. Because I go into organizations and I have a look at how do we become better together. We want cultures where people feel they can bring what they have. The problem is we're trying to separate them we will go, be professional. Well, okay, I can do that, but you're asking me to mask parts of me. So what I go in, Joyce, and do is I teach people how to start unlocking the best of them. I work with executives and I have compassion for them. I'll share truth and I get them to step into their potential if they can. Right. Sometimes it goes down this path where I do spend time with a lot of women, and I do free work, women that need it, women that have gone through trauma and just this abusive piece. I sit with them and I give that time away because they couldn't pay me the corporate rates that I work in the corporate space. So when they ask, how much do I have to pay you? I go, I don't know, just arrive, please. But when I go in and I work with organizations, you see, Joyce, that was the fair majority of my time. And this is what I've learned. I could see that me not forgiving and releasing created separation and a lack of compassion and empathy for others. Which meant as a leader in an organization, I was expecting people to toughen up, harden up, and get the job done. If I reframe that now as a leader in an organization, I expect you to just bring what you have. Please communicate with me. Allow me to see you transform. Please step into your growth. I need you to show up for your life here. That's what I ask you to do. I want you to try and be imperfect. I want you to start accepting each other. I'm trying to teach people the value of living, of living.
Right. Yeah.
Joyce, the greatest gift for me is when I sit with really senior leaders who've learned how to bottle up a lot of things. And they're so naughty. They'll if I go in and I'm in a place and they go, how long do you think till she makes you cry? I go, I don't make people cry. I just sit with people and I create a space where they're really seen and heard. Something that they might not have had for a very long time.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, your story is powerful. Thank you for sharing that today. And I want to know the book. Have you written a book on this?
I have. So my book that I've written on my journey, as well as the alchemy practices of forgiveness, accepting, and releasing, is called The Glass Angel.
The Glass Angel. Okay.
It's called The Glass Angel. And it has 3 parts to it. The first part is a metaphor of an angel who thinks she's broken. Actually, she's called to be more. She's called to use her experiences and her brokenness as... I don't want to give this away because sometimes we walk around thinking we're broken. It is a beautiful story. Then I share my story. I share real big chunks of struggles that I was struggling with: forgiveness, acceptance, and releasing. And then I share how people can do it, because I share with them how I've turned that seemingly challenging, ugly part into something beautiful. And in the back of the book, I've got alchemy practices so that you can transform your life.
Oh, great. Sounds like a great book. A nice tool, a supportive tool. Yeah.
It's a nice tool. It's a nice tool, and I've written it from my heart.
Yeah. Now, how long has it been out?
It came out in October, so it's available on Barnes & Noble. I know.
Okay, it's brand new.
Give yourself a gift. Give yourself a gift. So it's available on Barnes & Noble and Amazon. And the audiobook will be released early January. We're hoping to do it sooner, and I narrate it.
Do you? Oh, I'm so glad. We can hear that accent, that pretty accent. You could have asked me to read it for you, but then it would be twangy. Not as clean as your English accent.
Thank you, Joyce.
Yes, you're so welcome. But you also, because we're getting so close to the end of our time together, you also spend time on children's books. And I have to explore that a little bit. Why is it that you love to do the children's books?
I grew up with a mother who told stories. Always told her stories, and she's the most she's like a real life Mrs. Doubtfire.
Okay.
And when my son went through his struggles, I created an analogy in my practice about a pufferfish that pops when we get upset. And so my team were like, you got to write that story, Christina. You tell it so imaginatively. And so I wrote his story. It was my first into writing a kid's book. Look, I think it's imperfect, yet it is my son's story. And it's about Oscar, who has to own his pop. Pops when he thinks thoughts of how he's not loved and won't belong, and how dad and his mom share with him that love and acceptance is his way through, and how his friends give him kindness. So I really love that story. And apparently kids really love it too, because I actually give it to the adults sometimes that go in my programs with me. And then the second book I wrote is about Astra the unicorn finding her belonging, and that's my story. And it's about a unicorn. I know. As I was doing the self-work, Joyce, I set a plane ride between Melbourne and Sydney. So it was about an hour and a half flight.
Yes.
I just got my notebook out and a story fell out of my heart. And then I refined it. So her name's Astra, and she just wants to be with her mom and dad that love her so much. But now she's placed in this world, and the zebras don't like her because she's too shiny. So she decides to roll in some mud, arrives back on the plains of Africa, and the zebras go, "We still see your horn. You can't play with us. You're a unicorn." And then she goes, "That's terrible. So now I want to be a monkey, but I've got hooves and a tail. How am I ever going to climb the trees and swing from branch to branch?" And then she comes across this eclectic mix of animals, and they just love her for who she is. And a storm, and she uses her gift of love and light to keep them safe and dry. She runs off as soon as the storm's done because they fall asleep, and hides, and they go and find her, and they remind her that she's beautiful just the way she is.
Oh, sweet. So sweet. I love it. But what's the grow me?
So you might laugh, but I kept giving people my children's books, and they were like, executives, this is inappropriate. It's a child's book. Like, oh my God. Strategy for what movie, let's get them. Okay. So then I was like, okay, as a coach, I'm always trying to teach people the fundamentals of growth so that we start growing. There's a teaching component, and I need to get a book out that does the teaching component. So I write guides. None of my books are huge, big reads because I to read them.
Yeah. Right.
You write a big book, no one reads it. If I write a small book, you're more likely to read it. So it's got 9 steps of growth in there.
Okay.
And it is a guide. So there's a reflection piece, there's a story piece, there's a model, and then there's your workbook piece so that you can work.
Oh. I thought they're all just wonderful. Oscar really was interesting, and the Glass Angel, I think I'm going to get that one. Yay. So yay, and maybe grow me. We're all on a path, aren't we? Always on a path.
Do you know acceptance and choice? Those are the 2 things you have. You choose to accept and choose because that's what makes you human. So choose you.
Choose me.
Love you. Okay.
Now, would you please share with my audience the website so they can go and just spend an hour or 2 just going through your website. There's so many good things. And I love the way you chronologically listed your life in bubbles going down. I need my ears. I loved it. So your website.
www.ignitepurpose.com.au.
Yes. You are also on Facebook and LinkedIn. I don't know where Twitter is now with all that's going on.
I am on Twitter. I'm also on TikTok. I've started putting my videos up there so that I can teach and share with people.
Yes.
YouTube channel, which they can find, but all my videos are in any case on the website, but you can check into my YouTube channel. And I've got a podcast called Ignite Purpose with Christina Foxwell.
Very good. And so you record weekly on your podcast?
I don't record weekly because I'm always running around doing work, but I'm on season 5 and I've got 4 episodes out, and we'll record quite a few over Christmas again. And it is the story of alchemy, and it's the glass angel. So this season to healing, love, and growth.
Yeah. Well, this has just been indeed a pleasure. So I've so enjoyed having you as my guest on Second Wind, because you've definitely had a second wind and a third wind and a fourth wind. But isn't that life? We're all in multiple winds, seasons of winds. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you. It feels like I have had a hug from you today, Joyce. You're loved by me. And I appreciate it. And to your audience out there, I send you all love.
Oh, so let me say just a few words to my audience. Tell me, did you not love this? I mean, even listen to, she was so kind to share her pain and her growth, because there's always growth. And although the pain is so hard to live through, it somehow with your journey turns into a gift almost, because you change direction, you change your thoughts, you grow. And we all have these moments in our lives. None of us are protected from sadness and pain coming into our life. So I know that you know somebody, and you know I do this every week. I always say, please share, because you can be a real important part of your friend's life while she's in pain. You can give her a tool, or you can go to the website and order the glass angel for your dear friend that is suffering. So anyway, thank you for being here today. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful week, and that you'll reflect on our program today. I think there's a lot of good meat in this one. So thank you for being here. And I look forward to next week being with you. Thank you. Bye.
Joyce Buford returns next week at the same time for another edition of Second Wind. Through the Joyce Buford Empowerment System, women are receiving the support they need through their transitions and are able to reclaim their true purpose with confidence. They receive the tools they need to map out new lives. You can find out more about her coaching services at joycebufordempowers.com.